"We're running out of time." That phrase hasn't been said at a podium, but it's showing up everywhere else. In recent weeks, California has quietly rolled out emergency measures across multiple systems, signaling a government racing against constraints it no longer fully controls. When governments believe they still have time, they act loudly. They pass legislation, hold press conferences, and promise long-term solutions. But when time starts to disappear, the behavior changes. Decisions move behind closed doors, rules bend quietly, temporary fixes appear without announcements. And that is exactly what is now happening across California. No official has stood at a podium and said, "We're running out of time." But the actions coming out of Sacramento tell that story clearly enough. Over the past several months, state agencies have begun rolling out emergency measures across energy, housing, infrastructure, and local government finance, often without public debate, and almost never with advance notice. Governor Gavin Newsom continues to project confidence in public statements, emphasizing resilience and long-term planning. But internally, the state has shifted from strategy to triage. This is no longer about optimizing systems for the future. It is about preventing breakdowns in the present. The clearest sign of urgency is not what the state is saying, but how it is operating. Regulatory timelines that once took years are being shortened. Enforcement that was once strict is now described as flexible. Requirements that were considered non-negotiable are suddenly open to temporary exemptions. None of these changes are being framed as reversals. They are being framed as adjustments. But adjustments of this scale do not happen unless leadership believes delay itself has become dangerous. Nowhere is this more visible than in California's energy system. Over the past year, refining capacity has shrunk as facilities shut down or scaled back operations. At the same time, electricity demand continues to rise, driven by population growth, electrification mandates, and extreme weather. Under normal conditions, a system like this would rely on redundancy, extra capacity that absorbs shocks. California no longer has that luxury. As a result, energy regulators have quietly extended compliance deadlines, allowed temporary operating changes, and coordinated closely with private operators to keep fuel and power flowing. These measures are not designed to improve efficiency or lower costs. They exist for one reason: to avoid shortages. When a system is healthy, it plans years ahead. When it is under stress, it buys weeks at a time. Housing policy shows the same pattern. California's housing shortage has been discussed for decades, but the response has changed recently. Instead of careful sequencing and local negotiation, the state has begun pushing speed above all else. Permitting processes are being compressed. Reviews are being streamlined. Oversight that once emphasized caution now emphasizes urgency. This shift reflects a growing recognition inside state government that delay itself is now a risk. When housing production lags, rents rise. When rents rise, displacement accelerates. When displacement accelerates, political pressure explodes. The state is no longer trying to perfect housing policy. It is trying to prevent conditions from deteriorating further. Local governments are also being pulled into emergency mode. Cities and counties across California are facing declining revenue from multiple directions: commercial property weakness, reduced consumer spending, and the contraction of industries that once anchored local budgets. At the same time, their costs continue to rise, especially for pensions, public safety, and infrastructure maintenance. Instead of large, visible bailouts, the state has opted for quiet interventions, selective relief, case-by-case flexibility, temporary permissions that allow cities to delay obligations without officially defaulting. These moves avoid headlines, but they reveal a deeper problem. The state does not have the resources to stabilize every local government at once. This is why emergency measures are being rolled out quietly. Public declarations create panic. Panic triggers market reactions. Market reactions accelerate failure. Leadership understands that confidence itself has become a critical piece of infrastructure. What makes this moment particularly dangerous is that multiple systems are under stress at the same time. Energy, housing, local finance, and infrastructure are all being managed with reduced margin. When systems lose slack, even minor disruptions become serious threats. A heat wave strains the grid. A refinery outage spikes fuel prices. A delayed infrastructure repair becomes a service shutdown. None of these events alone would be catastrophic. Together, they create instability. Emergency governance is not meant to be permanent. It is designed for storms, fires, and earthquakes, short-term shocks that pass. But when emergency tools are used repeatedly, they stop being exceptional. They become normal. And when that happens, long-term planning suffers. This is the quiet shift now underway in California. Agencies are no longer asking, what is the best policy? They are asking, what can't fail? That change in mindset is subtle but profound. It marks the moment when leadership believes the system can no longer absorb mistakes. The public experiences this not as a single crisis, but as a slow erosion of normalcy. Higher costs without improved service, delays that never quite resolve, shutdowns described as temporary that quietly become permanent. For many residents, it feels like something is wrong, but nothing is officially broken. That is often how systemic stress looks in real time. History shows that emergency measures follow a predictable path. First, they are rolled out quietly, then they are extended. Eventually, they become embedded in normal operations. At that point, a choice must be made. Either rebuild capacity and restore normal rules, or accept a lower level of performance as the new baseline. California is approaching that decision point. If the emergency measures succeed, the state may stabilize long enough to rebuild margin, adding capacity, restoring buffers, and slowing the pace of change to something systems can handle. If they fail, emergency governance will expand, public trust will erode, and instability will become chronic. The most important thing to understand is this. Emergency measures are not signs of panic, they are signs of urgency. They indicate leadership believes the window to act is closing, and that normal processes are too slow for the conditions on the ground. No one has said, we're running out of time. They don't need to. The clock is already dictating policy. And what California does with the time it's buying now will determine whether these emergency measures become a bridge to stability or the beginning of a long decline, managed quietly, one exception at a time,